We are in the swing of things here and have a busy slate of work for us this morning, so we'll go ahead and start with roll call.
Senator Cooper.
Here.
Senator French.
Senator French is here. He's on mute. Good to see you, Senator French, on Zoom.
Sorry. Yep. I'm here.
Senator Cole.
Present.
Senator Cost.
Here.
And Chairman Nethercott.
Here. All right, committee, we have our fifth gun bill of the session. Good gosh, we are doing some firearm work this year. What can we do more? Representative Worf, you tell us.
Well, Chairwoman Nethercott and members of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Bob Worf, I'm happy to be here today. And I have before you what I think is a pretty simple bill. It's House Bill 116. It's a concealed carry residency requirement 2 is what it's called. And, you know, I was always told that we should say what the purpose of the bill is and what the problem is we're trying to solve. And, you know, the purpose of this is to extend the constitutional right to carry. That's what we called the bill. I actually was here as a lobbyist working on that bill in 2010. It became live in 2011, but that's what we quite often refer to as a concealed carry law. And that's the one that allowed if you were a law-abiding citizen that you could own and possess a gun, you could carry it open or you could carry it concealed.
Representative Worf, what is the definition of law-abiding citizen?
I believe it's somebody that adheres to the laws, that they've not been convicted or found guilty of a violation that would have prevented them from exercising their Second Amendment right.
Representative Worf, knowing that you worked for well over a decade on these laws in Wyoming, how many times is law-abiding citizen defined in our statutes, particularly related to firearm regulation, if you know?
You know what, Madam Chairwoman, I don't know that. I'm not an attorney and I have not looked that up. So you may know that better than I, but it's a common phrase that the lay people use. And I'm not sure that is defined in statute, but I think we all understand what I'm talking about when I say a law-abiding citizen. And if I'm wrong, let me know that, please.
Well, I don't know what you know about what you're talking about.
You don't.
People. So Representative Worf, please continue and walk us through this bill.
Okay. As I was stating, when we dealt with this, one of the questions that came up was whether or not we should extend that same authority to non-residents. And at the time, we kind of didn't feel that was that it was likely that we could have got the bill passed if we would have included that. So out of the 18 states that have passed the constitutional right to carry legislation, there's 2 states that still prevent non-residents from carrying concealed without a permit. And what this does is this brings us in line with all those other states. North Dakota will be the only state that still restricts non-residents from this authority. And so if you look at the bill, I mean, it's real simple. It goes into under Section 1, Wyoming Statute 68-104A, Romanet 4, says it's amended to read. It says 6-8-104. You go down through there, and what we've added in Romanet 4, it says is a resident of the United States, and then we've corrected the numbering. But this bill, basically, all it does is it extends that authority or privilege to exercise their Second Amendment right. We view this as a plus for tourism. The people that want to travel, that want to come, they want to know whether or not they can bring their weapon. And you know, people are serious about their Second Amendment right. They don't want to do anything that's going to get them in trouble. So this is one thing that will allow a non-resident, which one of the things that I didn't know that I learned as we were working on this, when it says a U.S. resident, that also includes, because the federal law classifies anybody that has a green card. That is, they are given that same, they're considered a resident, so to speak, based on the way the federal government defines that. So just so the committee's aware of that.
Thank you, Representative Wolf. I see you have your co-sponsors here. Come forward, representatives. Let's hear from you. Good morning, gentlemen. Let's hear your thoughts on this bill. Introduce yourself to the committee, where you're from.
Good morning, Chairwoman. My name is Representative Bill Fortner. I'm from House District 52, Campbell County. Thanks for having us today.
Hello, Chairwoman. This is Jeremy Haraldson, House District number 4. And just, I guess I'll dive in real quick just on this bill. I think that we need to realize that this is a direction that the conservative states in this country have moved, that are moving towards, and that is allowing concealed carry to be an option in the state. We need to be careful because I mean, when it comes to the travel side and stuff, there's a lot of work that you need to do to know what states you can and cannot carry in. And as they're cleaning up this, the statutes, it's making it easier and easier for people who are law-abiding citizens to be able to travel with their firearm and be able to carry in like-minded states. And so I definitely think it's time that we move in that direction as well. And I think that our Second Amendment rights gives us this ability, and I think we're just lining up the statutes to make that reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Haraldson. Can you tell me what you think the bill does?
Thank you, Chairwoman. Yes, so this bill gives us the opportunity to have the ability to conceal carry in the state of Wyoming with from another state. So another state can come into the state of Wyoming and conceal carry in this state.
Representative Worth, would you agree with that statement?
Madam Chairwoman, I would say it's correct. If we pass this this legislation, they would not be required to have a concealed carry permit to conceal carry in this state. There are some restrictions on where that can occur, but you know that's being addressed in another bill. So,
What other bill is that, Representative Worf?
well, that would be the repeal gun zone, the repeal gun free zones, Madam Chairwoman. And obviously that all depends on whether that legislation passes or not.
Is that Senate File 67?
Madam Chairwoman, I apologize. I don't necessarily know the number. I just know that it's working through. I believe it just came out of the Senate, and I don't know if it's been read into the House yet.
Questions for the representatives? Senator Cost.
Madam Chairwoman, did you want to let Representative Fortner speak?
Representative Fortner,
maybe?
please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. The reason I co-signed onto this in the Second Amendment Preservation Act is they sort of go hand in hand. It's like hand in glove. The one gives us the freedom of the Second Amendment, and the other one gives us a better freedom to carry in a local. The day that we're in right now, the Second Amendment was basically set up years ago to defend against government. This is to defend for ourselves, not against, but for. And that was the reason that I signed on to it. I believe in it 100%. I believe that it's added safety. There's a lot of crazy people running around these days. And I think anytime we have the right to pass legislation to protect ourselves and our property, I think that's a good thing. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Representative Fortner. Senator Cost.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To any one of the three of you, does this then basically eliminate the necessary for the concealed license in the state of Wyoming?
Representative Worf.
Madam Chairwoman and Senator Cost, it does not. If an individual still wants to get a concealed carry permit, they can. There's benefits to that. There's different compacts, different states have agreed, and I don't remember all the states, but there's multiple states that have a reciprocal agreement with Wyoming. So if a person was to get a concealed carry permit authorizing that to happen in the state of Wyoming, what it does is it extends that privilege to other states that recognize our concealed carry permit. And it also helps if you've ever purchased a firearm, you know that you have to fill out the paperwork, you have to do background check. If you got a concealed carry permit, you don't need to do that because they've already got you on record. So it simplifies some things, and it doesn't eliminate that. There's still a lot of people I know that have a Wyoming concealed carry permit, and there's just depends on where you're traveling, whether or not it adds to the travel if you're going into those states, and sometimes it is beneficial, Madam Chairwoman, to have a concealed carry permit.
Representative Wharf, what states have reciprocity with Wyoming?
You know, Madam Chairwoman, I don't know all of them. I know there's several, and that's one of the things that is attractive. I know it's not as numerous. I know the state to our west
You
has
can say
more.
the state's name. in a
Okay, we
committee meeting.
can say that in committee. Okay, the state of Utah, I know that they have more. I know a lot of people travel to the state of Utah to get concealed carry permits, and I would imagine that that when Mr. Odekoven talks, I think, Madam Chairwoman, he could give you the specifics. And I apologize, I'm not a concealed carry guy. I don't have a permit, so I've just never. When we did the constitutional right to carry, I've never gotten my concealed carry permit.
Why?
Well, Madam Chairman, that's an interesting question. And I've always been concerned about the precedents that sets for people to make the argument that the federal government can in fact regulate our firearms. And so I've been more supportive of the idea that the Second Amendment means what it says, and that if I'm a law-abiding citizen, somebody that's not lost that authority or that privilege, that I should be able to carry a firearm. And the reason I don't, I'm not in a situation where I'm fearful. I have a friend that was abducted by 2 escapees from the Utah State Penitentiary. Him and his wife spent Christmas Eve at gunpoint, 2 little kids, never knowing if they were going to be killed or not. And I can tell you one of the guys was killed at a later date. They both escaped. They shot down a helicopter. They killed a person that was with the cops. But I can tell you the one guy that remained alive had said he was going to kill my friend. And I can tell you in that situation, he always has a gun. And I've never been that fearful, that I've always felt I needed one. But I will tell you, when I travel, I usually do have a sidearm, just because you never know what you're going to run into. But that's, I just, right now, I don't feel the need to constantly have a firearm on my side. But as has been testified, and we just seen it happen, bad things can happen in a very short period of time. So I think it's a serious thing. And I do think that it's a right that we should be able to exercise. I just don't feel the need to have a concealed carry permit, Madam Chairwoman.
Senator Cost?
So then I'd like to go back to the same question. So with the passage of this, do you really need to have a concealed license to conceal a weapon in the state of Wyoming?
Yeah, Madam Chairwoman, it looks like
Representative Harold?
Representative Haroldson would like to answer that one.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and Senator Coast. One of the main reasons why people do get a concealed carry permit is the fact that it will speed up the process of firearm purchase. It does, you have the ability to go through a full fingerprint background check. And so I had my concealed carry before we passed legislation, the state of Wyoming passed legislation for constitutional carry. And I believe there is a point for it. There are people who want that. There are people who, and there are certain states that you cannot carry in concealing unless you have a concealed carry permit. And for those reasons, I do have a concealed carry permit. The one thing too that I think needs to be added, if the safest place for a sidearm is on a person. It can't be, a kid can't get to it. It's always being maintained at that point. And under current law, a someone who does not have a concealed carry permit coming into the state of Wyoming with a sidearm, where's that going to be left? It's going to be left in a vehicle. It's going to be left. And there's potential for, in my opinion, there's potential for danger. The safest place for a sidearm is on someone's person, the person who has been trained and is ready to use that sidearm if heaven forbid, but if the case were to arise. And so I think in a way, this is again, it's a cleanup where we're going to take and make sure that a sidearm is on the side of a person that is trained to use that sidearm.
How are we doing that in this bill, Representative Haroldson?
Because currently, if let's just say I were coming into the state of Wyoming, did not have a concealed carry permit, and I had a sidearm, it would have to stay in the vehicle. I could not conceal and carry that in the state of Wyoming.
But you could open carry, right?
Sure, you could open carry.
Because we're a
But
constitutional carry state.
I
There
understand.
are no limitations.
But a lot of people would not feel comfortable, Madam Chairman, for open carrying in certain situations where they would be comfortable concealed carrying.
Senator Cost, follow up.
So then November, when I'm hunting elk, and on my side by side, I put my 357 in a pocket on the side until I get out to go, so that if I have a bear, I might have to look at him pretty. I don't want to say anything real bad, but nonetheless, does that mean I'm illegal because I currently don't have a concealed carry?
Representative Haroldson.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Senator Coe. So you're saying if you were to place a sidearm in a pocket on your side-by-side or on a pocket on your vest? On the side-by-side? In the vehicle?
Yes.
It would be in your vehicle, not on your person being
Right.
concealed.
Until I get out on foot, yeah.
At that point, it would be in your vehicle. And you'd have to, I'll be completely honest with you, I'm not 100% sure on the legality of if it's, and then is it in a case? I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. And this is the thing I think we need to be careful of. Law-abiding citizens want to stay law-abiding. As a whole, that's what I feel and I've seen. And so we need to be very careful that we don't make that harder than it needs to be.
Should we raise our hands if we want to be law abiding? Since we're making laws. Senator Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representatives, a couple of questions on the bill here. We've talked quite a bit about a law-abiding citizen and what it is, but then we go back again to a resident of the United States, and that is not a law-abiding citizen. I understand why you call it a resident, but that's a conflict in my mind. Secondly, page 2, line 10 completely invalidates page 2, line 1 through 8. So what's the purpose of that paragraph above when anybody in the United States can carry here? And then thirdly, what's the point of reciprocity if we have to have this? I'm confused by the need for this.
Representative Wharf.
Madam Chairman or Chairwoman, I can address that. Senator Cooper, Section 8 talks about those who have a concealed carry permit. So that's what that's applying to, is those that have a concealed carry permit. And that's why Ruminant 4 says the person who does not possess a permit issued under this section, because that's what the section is. It says wearing or carrying concealed weapons, penalties, exceptions, and permits. So that's the title of that section. And that's why Romanet 4 says the person does not possess, because that's what we're saying is if you don't have a Wyoming concealed carry permit, but you are a resident of the United States, you can conceal carry. And as far as whether or not we know they're law abiding, that I assume that we still believe in the presumption of innocence. And that's what we're talking about is if I haven't been convicted of a crime that denies me my Second Amendment from exercising my Second Amendment privilege, then to me, that's what this is saying. When we talk about a law-abiding citizen, That's an assumption that we all have. And I think that's an assumption that's very important to protect.
Representative Worf, what about adjudicated incompetent or diagnosed with schizophrenia? Oftentimes, they're law abiding. What about that?
Well, Madam Chairwoman, I don't know, those individuals have special needs and that's addressed with other laws.
What laws,
And,
Representative Worf?
well, the laws that address people that have those issues, Madam Chairwoman, and yeah, you're talking mental health. Yes, that's what you're referring to, are you not?
Representative Worf, I'm talking about someone who may be a prohibited possessor of a firearm, but is a law-abiding citizen, and they would be prohibited because they've been adjudicated incompetent.
Then they've already been adjudicated incompetent, Madam Chairwoman.
But
And
they're a law-abiding citizen. Do you see the distinction?
I do, but what you just said, if they've been adjudicated, then they are not capable of concealed carrying.
Under what law?
And I'm assuming that we already have laws in place that says people that have been adjudicated incompetent to have a firearm can do that.
We don't.
Well, Madam Chairman, maybe that'd be a good bill to bring, but I believe that those people already would fall under that restriction. If they've been adjudicated, that's my understanding, that they can't legally carry a firearm.
Representative Worf, when we look at what the bill does on page 1, lines 1 through 4, and we kind of just break that down, which is really just walking through what the bill does for explanation. So we're removing the state residency requirement for a person carrying a concealed firearm without a permit who meets the other statutory criteria. Who determines whether or not the Colorado resident meets the other statutory criteria?
Madam Chairwoman, I believe that's in the statute.
Who makes that determination, Representative Worf? And when does that determination occur?
That determination is made, I guess, when you're in a court of law. If you've not done anything, don't we still assume people are innocent until they've done something that?
I appreciate the efforts to reverse the line of questioning to this committee, but I'm asking you how it works on the ground. Who would determine whether or not that Colorado resident is eligible to carry concealed and whether or not they qualify under our statutes?
Madam Chairwoman, if this bill were to pass, if I have not done anything to have my Second Amendment rights limited in another state, I would be able to exercise my constitutional right to concealed carry. That's all this is doing. It's not that complicated. This is just saying that unless you've done something to prohibit it, you have that authority. And to me, that's what the Constitution says. And so I can't presuppose, I can't determine what other people are. I think that that's an assumption that we make, that unless you've done something that's made you go through a legal process where you've lost that authority or the ability to exercise that, that's what this is saying, is you're not required to have a concealed carry permit to conceal carry in our state. That's what this does.
Thank you, Representative Worf. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Any final questions for the representative? Senator Cooper.
I'm still confused by the condition of the bill as it's presented here. So what I'm reading, the only thing that this bill has done is add the wordage on line 11 and change the numbering on line 13 of page 2.
Correct.
Is that correct? That's the
Correct.
only thing? Everything else is just what's already in the statute?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, Senator Cooper, that's what I'm saying. And it's hard because I don't have the whole statute here in front of me,
You should.
but this is Romanet 4. And Romanet 4, that means there's 3 Romanets above it. And if you go back, and this is what's kind of screwy, but this is just the way the language is written in statute. This is under the heading of wearing or carrying concealed weapons, penalties, exceptions, and permits. All we are doing is adding to that the exception that if you are a resident of the United States, that you can have the ability to conceal carry just like anybody else in the state of Wyoming you no longer have a requirement to have a concealed carry permit. That's what this is doing, is it's exempting you from the statute. Because when we passed that statute, residency was a requirement for concealed carry. If
Madam
that's
Chair.
any clear.
Follow up, Senator Cooper?
Yes, please. So again, we've talked about a law-abiding citizen, but it doesn't say a law-abiding resident. It doesn't say, there's no qualifications for the resident. It just says a resident. Does that mean it has to be a legal resident? Does it mean it has to be a law-abiding resident? That's pretty wide open, gentlemen.
Madam
Senator
Chairwoman, Senator Cooper, it's not as wide open as it's appearing. And let me see if I can pull up the statute real quick. But all this is doing is it's based on the presumption of innocence. I mean, you know, that's something that we all are granted. I mean, I don't know whether you're a convicted felon or not, but you know, to me, there's an assumption of innocence. And as long as you have that authority to exercise, it's a right guaranteed under the Constitution. And all this is doing is it's changing the law that omitted non-residents from having that authority. And this has been done in 17 other states. All it is bringing it in line with all the other states that have constitutional right to carry. So we have people that have understood that process. They have learned where they can travel without having to have a concealed carry permit. And that's all this is doing, is pulling us in line with them. It's as far as determining whether or not law-abiding citizen, like I said, is a common term that we use.
Who's we,
It's-
Representative Worf?
Excuse me?
Who is we?
I think all three of us have used that, Madam Chairwoman. So
Any other members of the we that use law-abiding citizen?
I would imagine that most of the public, Madam Chairwoman, would consider themselves law-abiding citizens.
What about an individual who's been adjudicated incompetent? Would they consider themselves a law-abiding citizen?
I would imagine that they don't, Madam Chairwoman. They probably don't have the understanding of what that even means.
Madam Chair.
Senator Cooper?
Again, back to the resident. I understand that this has nothing to do with presumption of innocence. This states is a resident of the United States. It doesn't say a law-abiding resident. It, as it would say a law-abiding citizen in other places. It just simply says a resident of the United States. So if I come in here from wherever and establish residency, it doesn't matter if I'm a convicted felon, it doesn't matter what I am. This says if I'm living in the United States, I can carry concealed carry in Wyoming. There's no qualification there's a qualification on a citizen. He has to be a law-abiding citizen of the state of Wyoming. But if I'm a resident of some other state and I'm not a law-abiding citizen of that state, I can still conceal carry in Wyoming as a resident of another state.
Representative Worf, are you working for it?
I'm trying to find that, Madam Chair, but
Representative Harrelson?
Thank you, Chairwoman and Senator Cooper. If they are not a law-abiding citizen, if they have a felony on their record, them having a possession of a firearm already puts them in a position where they're in trouble. So it doesn't matter if it's an open carry or concealed carry at that point.
Representative Harrelson, are there any misdemeanors that would make a person a prohibited possessor of a firearm?
There is, ma'am.
Can you share with us what those are?
I'm not fully aware of all of them, but I know that there are out there. But I'm just saying that if they've already been ruled that they are not allowed to have a firearm, be it open carry or concealed carry, they can't have a firearm and they'd be in trouble of that.
Senator Cooper?
I understand that, Representative, but it doesn't say that in this bill. It just simply says that they have to be a resident of another state. It doesn't say that they have to be precluded from having firearms or anything else. It just simply states that they need to be a resident of another state. It's too broad what you did here. I understand your intent, but that's not what this says.
Representative Fortner.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I think everybody in this room knows that a convict, he's going to travel from state to state, whether he's got a weapon or not. This is not about protecting the convict. This is about protecting common people, with giving them the right to carry the gun to protect ourselves from them kind of guys that's traveling from state to state and nation to nation. That's what this is about. It's not about protecting the convict one bit.
Madam Chair,
And those Canadians coming over nation to nation.
Madam Chair.
Senator Cooper, follow up.
Representative Fortner, I understand that, and I think everybody in this room understands the intent. But this, as stated, is my problem. When you go into a court, is this defensible? As a resident of Colorado, or wherever I may be from, anywhere else in the United States, and I come in here concealed carry, it doesn't matter for whatever reason that I may be precluded. It simply says on here that I'm a resident of another state. So therefore I'm legal to conceal carry in Wyoming. That's what this says.
Yes,
And it
Madam
needs to
Chairwoman.
it needs to be more direct, is my point. Let's put some sideboards on this thing and give it some teeth where we can actually enforce it. Is what I'm asking for. I think it's just too broad as it is.
Representative Worf.
Madam Chairman, I would like to respond to that if I could, Senator Cooper. Do you not believe that the Second Amendment applies to everybody in the United States?
Representative Worf, we ask questions, you answer them.
Well, and
It's not an
okay,
exchange.
it's a rhetorical question then. I'm going to ask that. This is what this says. We're talking about, keep in
Senator
mind,
Worf, I'm offended by that. Or Representative
Well-
Worf, don't you scold me, young man.
Senator Cooper, I'm not
All right.
scolding you. I'm
Time out.
trying to have a discussion here.
Time out. We're going to go to Senator Cost's
Yeah,
question.
Matt-
Senator Cost.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Because I'm a resident of the United States, whether I'm in Wyoming or not, I still qualify as a resident of the United States, so I should be able to conceal carry without a license. And so the only thing I see this bill do is says anybody can conceal carry as well as open carry, which we already have open carry in the state, which all of us can do already. And if I understand correctly, anybody from another state can open carry in our state as well. So all this does is says you can put it inside of your vest instead of on the side.
Representative Worf.
Madam Chairwoman, that is correct. And I apologize. I do have the statute up, and keep in mind, I want the committee to understand this, because this, like I said, this is kind of screwy the way it's written, but it's the way the statute is. What we are talking about is section 6, Wyoming Statute 68104, and it's entitled Wearing or Carrying Concealed Weapons, Penalties, Exceptions, Permits. And what we do is A's included there. What you're not seeing is the Romanet I, Romanet double I, Romanet 3. I'm going to read those. It says, and this is who's exempt from this statute. It says the person is a peace officer. They're not required. The person possesses a permit under this section. They're referring to the concealed carry permit. And the third one is, it says the person holds a valid permit authorizing him to carry concealed firearm authorized and issued by a governmental agency, an entity in another state that recognizes Wyoming permits and is a valid statewide permit. So that's saying if you have a concealed carry permit in another state. And then if you go down to 4, right now, what it says is the person does not possess a permit issued under this section, but otherwise meets the requirements specified in paragraphs B, I through 6. And that's all this is doing, is it's going down and it's allowing a non-resident to be exempt from having to have a concealed carry permit issued from another state. So what it is doing is it is just making it that simple. If you are a non-resident, you don't live in Wyoming, but you're a resident of the United States as defined by the federal government, you can conceal carry. If this passes, it would extend that authority. You would no longer be required to have a concealed carry permit. And that's all that's doing, is it's exempting them under this statute. That's where it belongs. So I'm hoping that answered your question, Senator Cost.
All right, thank you, Representative Wharf. Senator Kolb.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. A couple of questions. First, I'd just like to say that I'm supportive of the idea of what we're trying to accomplish here. I mean, I think I don't have an issue with that. I do, however, have some questions about how it's worded. So I wonder why we want green card holders in the United States, if I understood what you were saying earlier, to be able to come in our state and exercise this right. That's one question. The other question is what we're claiming as a resident here, a resident of the United States. I mean, I could foresee the way things are going and currently are, that someone who came in illegally across the border from Mexico and as a resident of the United States, they would argue was a legal resident. I wouldn't, but they would argue that. And under that premise, they may come in here and say, I can legally conceal carry. And in fact, they would have a probability, a chance of being part of a cartel. And I wouldn't want that extended to them as a right or a privilege. So I'm very much in favor of what you're trying to accomplish here, but I'm very much kind of confused on the language we chose to talk about. And lastly, Title 25 folks, the people that are a danger to themselves or others. And they're not necessarily criminals, but they've got mental issues. And I mean, honestly, when you fill out your form for a firearm and you don't check the box that you've ever been, adjudicated as mentally deficient or had mental issues, they're not going to fill that out. I mean, we all know that's the truth. They just don't fill the blank out because folks like that don't realize they have the kind of problems they have. But law enforcement has to deal with them. And, it's going to come up as an issue, and they will claim that they haven't been convicted of any crime, but yet they are a danger to themselves or others. And that was adjudicated in a court. So I know that the intent is not to have folks like that run around with a concealed carry permit and hurt people. So I just I'm asking the open question, those questions plus, are you willing to bring forth some amendments here or suggest amendments that would repair this? Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Representative Wharf.
Madam Chairwoman, Senator Kolb, the language here is a resident of the United States. That goes back to the federal government. They're the ones that you asked about the green card. I just said that is, in fact, the way the federal government defines that. If you have a green card, you're considered a resident of the United States. But that does not mean that you come here illegally, that all of a sudden you can say, well, I'm a resident. If you haven't gone through the proper steps to legally secure and obtain a green card, that doesn't extend residency to you just because you're on U.S. soil. So that's through federal statutes. That's nothing that all we're doing is and I brought that up just so you guys were aware, because I wanted you to know that, but it does not extend that authority or that privilege to somebody just because they're here. You have to be a legally defined resident of the United States. And as far as people that have been mentally adjudicated as incompetent, you're right. When you fill out the application to secure a firearm, it's there. And if you don't check the box, you're already in violation. And that's something that, that's a whole different discussion. But the statutes are already in place to address everything that this is doing. We're not doing anything, like I said, out of the 18 states that have passed constitutional right to carry, there's 2 that haven't extended it to everybody. There's Wyoming and North Dakota. So all the other states that have done this haven't had problems. And it really is that simple. All we're doing is saying that if you can legally own and possess a firearm, and you can conceal carry it in our state.
Representative Wharf, I think what Senator Kolb was driving at was concerns about the new Biden administration potentially expanding the definition of United States resident. Do you have those same concerns?
Madam Chairwoman, I do, but I don't think that this bill can fix that. I think that's a much larger problem than what we can address, but
Nullification. Thank you, Representative Worf.
thank you.
All right, any final questions for the representatives? Seeing none, let's go to public comment. Mr. Odekoven?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Senator Bouchard, who would like to speak on this bill? Taking up your time, representatives. We've done 40 minutes with the sponsors of the bill. Senator Bouchard, please share with us your thoughts.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'll be really quick. I heard some talk about the cartel. Look, the federal language that is in this bill, people that have residency cards through the U.S. government can walk into a gun store and buy a gun. This has already been done all over the country. We have people that do live here with residency cards, and they have a right to protect themselves just as much as anybody else. As a matter of fact, and I won't go into a lot of that, but the mental illness issues, we already have those possessionary things that happen. People that shouldn't have guns in it, and this isn't going to make a difference there. They do it anyway. People that do things wrong, whether they have mental illness or whether they're going to commit a crime, they do it without permission. So this is permissive to let people that are legal citizens that possess weapons. There's over a dozen states that have done this across the country. We were one of the early states, and we did this so we could get the bill passed, so we could be one of the early states. All the other states have done it without this. It's if all of the concerns that are going to drop, out of the sky, that things are going to happen, they're not happening in the other states. So I just want to keep it at that. And we have a lot of people that visit our state. And
Senator Bouchard, we have heard that this is for tourism. So we got that argument. Thank you.
well, Madam Chair, I mean, Montana has just recently done it. I mean, which side of Yellowstone do we want them on?
It's the thing to do. We understand. Thank
okay.
you.
Thanks. I'll
For
stand for any
tourism,
questions.
for America. Thank you, Senator Bouchard. Mr. Odekoven. Mr. Odekoven, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Byron Odekoven, the Executive Director for the Wyoming Sheriffs and Chiefs Association. Let me address several of the questions, if I may, that were brought up, but start with the premise that law enforcement stands solidly behind the Second Amendment. My testimony before the committee earlier, somehow that didn't seem to come across very well, according to some of the social media posts after my testimony. So let me reiterate a couple of points, if I may. And I think I demonstrated last time my personal commitment to the Second Amendment by offering my membership certificate as a life member of the NRA, and likewise my continued financial support of those efforts through the continued enhanced membership of becoming a benefactor and patron member. So I financially supported the Second Amendment efforts for a considerably long time as part of the bona fides personally, if you will, of my career, as have a number of members of the Sheriffs and Chiefs. So let me, I think you touched on several questions. I made a couple notes. I hope I touch on most of them. Wyoming reciprocity for concealed carry varies, if you will, somewhere between 34 and 37 states for our concealed permit holders and those concealed permit holders from other states. I say vary because generally the reason we learn that other states take us off the list, if you will, is we do not have a robust requirement for proficiency with a firearm. We mention it and we have several examples of it, but it's not considered robust by those other states. Utah, for example, what was just discussed, has a course that you must complete in order to receive that concealed carry above and beyond the points that we would outline in our statute as well. So that is a significant point when it comes to other states' reciprocity. A couple of points as well. The discussion of law-abiding citizen. You are correct, Madam Chair. It does not appear in the bill. It doesn't appear in the existing law anywhere. The bill talks about residents and persons is the term and phrase used in the statutory language and continues through the bill. The bill also, when it talks about the resident of the United States being able to carry concealed, exempts proficiency specifically from that. So if you were required to have proficiency in another state in order to receive your concealed carry permit, chose not to do that, you could come to Wyoming and carry concealed under this bill without any proficiency requirement by design of the bill. I just want to make sure and point that out, that that is specifically exempted in the current version and the language that you have before you. The dilemma that we face, and I think you touched on it briefly in using in bantering about the term law-abiding. The folks that we think are going to come to Wyoming that would exercise this, the tourist example or others, you bet. Odds are good. They are by and large 99% going to be, quote, law-abiding, end quote. Understand that. The dilemma that we face, and I believe it was touched on, is what about those folks who come who are not, or they are up to nefarious duties? And as I voiced in the House committee, the dilemma that we face for law enforcement is the view of the world at high noon is certainly a little different than the view of the world at 3 in the morning. Those vehicles that we encounter at 3 in the morning, some of those from a state neighboring to our south are up to some no good, if you will. And it would appear from this bill that they would be eligible to carry concealed while they're up to their nefarious no good, but they have not been proven yet. They're the bodyguard, the lookout, the whatever it is for that activity. And it would appear that based upon this, I merely get to encounter their concealed weapon and compliment them on their choice of weapon and compliment them on their style of carry and turn them loose. So their limited provision for law enforcement to deal with those people who would be up to no good, who may in fact mean to do us harm. But again, I don't want that to overshadow nor take away our support for those folks who are willing to abide by the Constitution and the laws of our state in the process of exercising their Second Amendment right. I understand the distinction, but would ask for the committee's indulgence in trying to determine how best to deal with those folks that we would encounter at 3 a.m. who are up to no good. Madam Chair, I think I've addressed the questions that were kind of posed. If not, please refresh my memory.
Questions for Mr. Odekoven? All right, Mr. Odekoven, this is really a question for the sponsors as well, but what it appears that we're intending to do with the bill is to kind of oddly eliminate the concept of a concealed carry permit in total. Why we're not just doing that is curious to me, as opposed to continuing to make a quagmire of our Second Amendment rights. What are your thoughts about the elimination of concealed carry in total?
Madam Chair, thank you. And I think it may be good to kind of refresh the committee, especially for those who are tuning in and maybe looking to social media as we work on the Second Amendment. In Wyoming, it is legal now for you to open carry. Anyone from the United States as a resident can open carry. For concealed carry, several years ago, you allow Wyoming residents to conceal carry. Prior to that, we also have the concealed carry permit process. And that is designed to allow and afford that reciprocity we discussed earlier, the concealed carry with limitations as was described. But also you are pre-fingerprinted, pre-background check, if you will, so that in the purchase of a firearm, both within the state of Wyoming and with certain restrictions in other states, you already have your NIC background check complete. So you can pick up that firearm sooner than if you have not gone through that process. Having said that, The concealed permit then allows you that reciprocity in other states, the purchase of the firearm as well. And for those who want to continue with that and the ability to purchase that firearm would want to have that concealed permit in order to expedite the purchase of that firearm, both in state and out of state, depending upon the circumstances and this type of weapon. So this would then afford everyone without a permit and without meeting the permit requirements, if you will, to be able to possess a concealed weapon in Wyoming. And it is troubling, and I appreciate the dialogue and discussion that our current administration may expand the definition of resident. And that may be troubling, to say the least, if that were in fact the case. So that may be a separate point of contention to look at within not only this proposed statute, but all of our statute concerning weapons. The word resident may be a good topic for discussion as well.
Mr. Odekoven, thank you so very much. All right, we appreciate hearing from you. Further
Thank you.
public comment on the bill? Do we have anyone online?
Madam Chairman, I do not see anyone in the waiting room with their hand up at the moment.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in the room who'd like to provide public comment?
Oh, Madam Chairman, we have Carl Allred, who just raised their hand. Would you like me to admit them?
Absolutely. Mr. Allred. How's the case going?
Madam Chairman, how are you?
We're good this morning, Mr. Allred. If you could introduce yourself to the committee, where you're from, and then share with us your comments on the bill.
Yeah, my name is Carl Allred. I'm from Uena County. I'm also serve on the State Central Committee of the Republican Party here in Wyoming. And there's just a few comments I'd like to make on this as I've heard some of the questions from members of the committee. The basic issue here is, if you look at this bill, all this is doing is modifying existing statute. And if you look at it, a few years ago, when we opened it up for non-permitted concealed carry, that does not remove the requirements that are stated to get a concealed carry permit. In fact, it says that you have to meet those requirements. Those requirements in existing statute prohibit anybody who's mentally incompetent, prohibit anybody who's been convicted of drug violations, anybody who has been committed to a state or federal facility, any convicted felon. None of those go away. So you're saying the same thing here, that if you want to carry permitless, that you have the opportunity to do so, but you must still meet those requirements. So a felon cannot, under this law or this proposed bill, cannot carry concealed in the state of Wyoming. So it does not change any of the other requirements. I carry two current concealed permits from two states, Wyoming and Utah, and that's because I travel a lot. And that is the reason that we still have permits. Otherwise, as you mentioned, Madam Chairman, we just get rid of them. And which would be great, except that when we travel to other states, some of them do require those permits. So any of the concerns that have been expressed, they're already in existing law. So the modification, the only thing this thing is doing is saying a resident of the United States. And there was a comment made about an illegal that can claim that they're a resident. They do not fit the federal requirement of our definition of a resident. So no, they are not covered by this. So anyway, I hope that answers some of those questions that people made, and I'd stand for any questions.
Mr. Allred, thank you so much. Mr. Allred, do you have concerns that a conviction for trespass would make you not a law-abiding citizen?
For a simple trespass, that would not meet the definition. That would remove my permit. There are specific things. Is one question that you asked earlier about what misdemeanors would do that. Under federal law, being arrested for a domestic violence, whether or not you're convicted, that would remove your eligibility. That's the main one. But a simple trespass would not remove your eligibility.
I think you're correct on that, Mr. Allred, but I'm not sure that that meets the definition of law-abiding citizen, but for the courts to decide sometime in the future. Mr. Allred, we really appreciate hearing from you and providing that clarification to the laws. Thank you so much, Mr. Allred. All right. Any further public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Committee, back to you. Senator French, we're not forgetting about you out there on Zoom. Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to participate at any time. And
I'm just listening in. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I 100% support the intent of this bill. The only thing this bill actually does is add the word resident of the United States. And that sounds pretty simple, but I've not heard a good answer from any of the sponsors or speakers as actually the actual definition of that in statute. So I will go and find that definition and make sure that we have that in hand if we move this bill forward. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Senator Cooper. Is there a motion on the bill?
Move the bill.
Moved by Senator Kolb. Seconded by Senator Cooper. Discussion on the bill? Question being called on the bill. Roll call vote on the bill.
Senator Cooper,
Aye.
Senator French,
Aye.
Senator Kolb,
Aye.
Senator Cost,
Aye.
Chairman Nethercott.
Aye.
Madam Chairman, House Bill 116 passes with 5 ayes.
Thank you this evening. With that, we'll go to our next bills for the day. Representative Craig is on his way. Wonderful. Good morning, Representative Craig. Good to see you. Welcome to Senate Judiciary Committee.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We did our 5th gun bill for the session so far. Just completed that, so you've missed some good times. Representative Crago, I understand you have House Bill 193, County Attorney's Representation of Special Districts. Do you want to walk us through the bill?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee members, today I bring to you House Bill 193, the engrossed version, and ask for your favorable consideration. Essentially, this bill allows all of our 23 county attorneys to represent any special district located wholly within their county. A little bit of backstory, and I'm bringing this bill to solve a problem, not only in my home county, but in a few other counties around the state where the county attorneys have represented special districts. For many years, for as long as I've been a deputy county attorney in Johnson County and longer in other counties I know, several of the county attorneys have represented various districts within their county, and that would include weed and pest, solid waste, occasionally a fire district, and there's a few others. It varies county to county, but it's typically your smaller districts. And typically what it would involve is reading a contract, helping them solve an employee issue, helping them draft bylaws or amend their bylaws, things like that. And I've been doing that for, like I said, as long as I've been a deputy county attorney for a couple of the districts in our county. Sometime this winter, one of our county attorneys from the state asked for an opinion from the Attorney General regarding whether or not we had statutory authority to actually represent these special districts, because a question had come up among the county attorneys whether we did. And none of us knew for sure, so we asked for the opinion from the Attorney General, and the Attorney General said we did not have statutory authority to do that, but that we could fix that. And they didn't see any issues with that. So I
Representative Krego, real fast, did the AG opinion indicate that you were prohibited from providing an opinion for the special districts? Or just that you weren't statutorily expressly authorized?
Madam Chairwoman, it said we were prohibited. And I actually forwarded that opinion to you here just a few minutes ago this morning. So it's a short one. It's not a very long opinion, but it said we were prohibited from providing legal advice to the special districts. And because essentially as county attorneys, we're bound by the Constitution and the statutes, and we only have authority to do what the statutes say we have authority to do. And so that was essentially the basis of their opinion.
Representative Krego, as I'm reading this opinion for the first time, do you believe that you could obtain these, assuming that there's no conflict of interest, which I question whether or not there isn't an inherent conflict, which I believe there likely is, which gave me hesitation on the bill, but assuming that issue of conflict of interest is resolved, in the event you entered into a memorandum of agreement or some type of contractual relationship, wouldn't that then, which both entities are allowed to do, hire legal counsel? Both entities are statutorily authorized to hire legal counsel, both the county attorney's office or county commissioners, as well as the special districts. And so why they would be prohibited from hiring the county attorney as legal counsel, whether or not that's for a fee or not, which I think has a conflict of interest or a fiduciary obligation to whichever entity is receiving the service or paying for the service, that then would trigger those duties as a result of a contractual relationship, which I think addresses some of the concerns in the short answer from the AG opinion. So questions about that. So really what I'm driving at is, do you think you can't do this already pursuant to some type of contractual relationship, assuming there's no conflict of interest?
According to the Attorney General opinion, no.
Do you agree with the Attorney General opinion?
Actually, I think it's correct. I mean, once I studied it and followed their reasoning, I do agree with it.
Questions from the committee? Senator Kolb?
Thank you, Chairman. Well, let me reassure you, as me being a county commissioner in the past for 8 years, this in fact is a conflict. We've had issues where we had our county attorneys representing us and, with a district issue. And obviously in that scenario, it's a conflict. I think, I think all the counties are amenable to helping out our district as much as we can, but sometimes it's inevitable. You're going to have a conflict, and enforcing, or I don't know, they have a choice to do this or not. The counties do, which I think is good. But I can tell you that I think the word you're looking for is you have authority by fiat from the. I don't have a Juris Doctorate, but I've listened to lawyers for a while, and that's what we have. And you're right, unless it's expressly given permission, you don't have any authority. But in this case, there's going to be conflict. I can assure you in Sweetwater County, there was conflict, and it was always tenuous, even between other elected officials within the county, because we only had one county attorney, say the treasurer, clerk, or whomever it may be. There's conflicts that come up, and we had to get special counsel. So I think, while I respect what you're trying to accomplish here, I am confused on why there wouldn't be a conflict. I guess if you could resolve that for me, Representative, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Representative Krego?
Madam Chairwoman, thank you, Senator Kolb. There's always that potential. Here's how I've responded to that question. We had this discussion a great deal on the other side of the hall, and I have more conflicts. I represent every elected official in my county, every single one. And as you being a county commissioner can understand, I have way more internal conflict with my statutorily required representations than I do with any of my special districts and my county commissioners. And in our particular county, the county commissioners encouraged me to do this. They wanted me to do this. It saves the taxpayers thousands of dollars on an annual basis. And so to address your concern regarding the conflict, we added an amendment on the House side on the floor, second reading, that gives the county commissioners essentially veto power over the representation. So if the county commissioners believe there will be a conflict with the representation of that district, or they just don't want, they think their county attorney is too busy and doesn't have time to do it. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about the county commissioners are in charge of the purse strings for the county. They pay a portion of the county attorney's fees, essentially salaries. And so if they believe they're too busy, don't have time, or if there's a conflict, they have the veto power. This would only, according to the amendment that we put in on the other side, which is the only amendment in the engrossed version, was the county commissioner's approval. It would not happen. And so that's sort of we sort of came to a compromise over there, believe that was the safety valve needed to address everybody's concerns regarding whether or not the county attorneys would have time to do this, and whether or not there would be conflicts between the commissioners or even another elected official. It doesn't necessarily have to be the commissioners. It could be any one of our electeds that possibly could have a conflict with one of those special districts. Not likely, it's more likely to be commissioners, but it could be someone else.
Follow up, Senator Cole.
Thank you, Chairman. It's going to cost somebody something. I think it's clear. Money's money. You're right. Districts may not have that legal ability to defend themselves because they don't have counsel. But I think it does afford a wall between the two entities, because there is going to be conflict. I can say there has been conflict between districts within a county and the Board of County Commissioners. So obviously in that case, it's an issue. I think the bottom line here is it's going to cost somebody money. I would say that the county pays a lot more for the county attorneys than the state of Wyoming pays for the county attorneys. A small percentage they do pay, but it isn't enough to cover the cost by any stretch of the imagination. So it's going to cost the residents money. And I think if the districts are malfunctioning, they ought to have representation for themselves. That's probably best served for their purposes. I think they call it a Chinese wall between issues that could be conflicting within a county attorney's office. And I think it seems kind of broad that we wanted. I don't know I understand the reason why, but I can just say that I don't really see it as a best solution that I've heard so far, but I'm willing to listen and hear you out. Thank you.
Representative Craigo.
So just in response to your comment, Madam Chair, sorry, in response to your comment regarding it's going to cost somebody more money, my hope is that's not the case. That's the point of me bringing the bill. If I thought it was going to actually cost people, if it's going to cost more money, then the bill serves no purpose. And so in our county, it's not. And I think in some of the other counties where they have done this in the past. Now, maybe they don't want to represent the districts anymore, and that's okay. This bill gives them that option if they do not want to represent the districts, because if this bill passes, I will have to go back to my home county, sit down with every one of my special districts, the handful that I take care of, with the county commissioners, and get approval from the county commissioners to continue, written approval to continue. And I won't be getting a raise. And so, I don't think anybody else will either. We've done this it really affects the small counties. That's really the, small districts, small counties. This allows them to utilize services they've been using. And it's, like I said, I'm not going to be representing them in litigation. That's not what I'm doing. If we end up in litigation, we have insurance lawyers that take over for that. This is really small stuff on a day-to-day basis that I already do for the county commissioners. For instance, helping draft handbooks, personnel policies. It allows me to, if I'm doing something for one entity, I can double up my efforts and help 3 entities at once, rather than all paying separate counsel to do the exact same job, to get the exact same result. And so that's really what I'm trying to do, is efficiency. We're down here trying to save money, and this is my effort to help in that cause. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Representative. Any additional questions for the representative? I think it seems simple, Representative Craigo, but I think it's a sticky wicket. Do Do you have, for that work that you're currently kind of already doing, or some of those other county attorneys, do you have waivers in place?
Madam Chair, I
You
do
don't need to
not.
answer that question, but
So I inherited my job. And so I will tell you that in our county, it actually worked like this statute provides. I did not do it without talking to our county commissioners first. I mean, that's how we did it. That's how my predecessor did it when I was hired 14 years ago to do this job. I was told you're going to go represent these people, these handful of districts along with the county commissioners and electeds.
looks like Senator French might have a question. Senator French?
Yes, Madam Chair. Representative, on Section 2 under D, it says each county attorney may in his discretion act as legal counsel or give his opinion for questions of law. What's your thoughts on it if they decide not to, and that special district says, well, the attorney general said you could? Is that going to create controversy out there? They said, look, you can represent us. Why aren't you? Just a question for you, sir.
Representative Craigo?
Madam Chairwoman, thank you, Senator French. There is that potential, yes. And that was one of the other reasons we added the provision requiring county commission approval, was to give your county attorneys some of that cover that the county commissioners might say, well, you don't have time and we're not paying for you to go represent any of the special districts. Obviously the county attorney is an elected position in 21 out of the 23 counties. In 2 of the counties, it's an appointed position by the county commissioners anyways. But, we're all elected to make tough decisions, and that would be up to the county attorney on a county by county basis. If they don't want to do it, they don't have to. If they want, they can. And that's why I drafted the bill very broadly for that very reason, was so that each county attorney could make their own decision on how they wanted to handle it within their county. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Looks like Representative Craigo, we'll give you a chance to come back after we hear public comment. Looks like we have Joe Barron. Mr. Barron, welcome to the committee. Danielle, I don't have access. Great, thanks for bringing him in. My Zoom is not working on my computer this morning, so I can't control it. But looks like he's on his way. Mr. Barron, good morning. Great to see you.
Good morning, thank you.
Introduce yourself to the committee and share with us your thoughts on the bill.
My name is Joseph Barron. I'm the Crook County and prosecuting attorney. I speak here on behalf of the Wyoming County and Prosecuting Attorneys Association. I'm the one who brought the request of the AG opinion. And like Mr. Craigo, I also represent particularly my weed and pest district. I started out with that when I started in 1986. That was one of my tasks, was to represent the weed and pest district. There's an old AG opinion that was requested by Bart Voigt back in the 80s that listed out who we could represent at that particular time and talked about that. And personally, first of all, the position of the association is they are opposed to this particular bill. I frankly was kind of surprised that they were adamantly opposed to the particular bill in this matter, but they are. And on a personal note, in my county, I felt that a weed and pest district was similar to a library board or a fair board, because all of the members of a weed and pest district are appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. And I limited my representation to boards that were solely appointed by the Board of County Commissioners in that matter. One of the things that is brought forward in the bill there to ability to represent special districts. And there are, everything Mr. Crago said is absolutely correct. We're a smaller county than Johnson County. And you get questions that people ask because they don't have particular funding for those, to do that. If you get one mill in Crook County, that's not near what a mill in Campbell County is worth. And so for our museum district, that's like $200,000. In Campbell County, that might be, several $1,000,000. And so that's a comparison that we run into. And so there's always a cost issue when it comes to saving money on that thing. But I will say this, and looking at this and giving it some thought, over the years, the legislature have passed more and more oversight by the Board of County Commissioners with special districts, up to and including the removal of board members, and also the budgeting oversight within the I believe it's 1612. There's a budgeting oversight on that the county commissioners have. There's, I'm involved right now in dissolving a special district because the special district has had issues with the state on not reporting. And so more and more there's the things. And like Mr. Crago, I inherited many of these things. We don't have any waivers or anything like that. You just do it and you that. But in any event, that's our position.
Mr. Barron, thank you so much. Mr. Barron, the 1980s AG opinion, is it different than the current opinion?
Madam Chairman, I don't believe so. There were some other additional boards back then that existed that don't exist today, or at least we don't have any of them here. They were not, I didn't find that the opinion was particularly clear to me about weed and pest districts on that.
Mr. Barron, so just to have a little fun, because it's that time of day. So the AG opinion essentially said you were prohibited from representing the special districts, and all of the small counties went ahead and did it anyway? Without waivers?
No, well.
Don't answer that question.
Well, as I can say one thing, as Madam Chairman, as a former Attorney General said, is that an Attorney General's opinion is just another attorney's opinion. And I believe that was Joe Myers. But I regularly try to follow those AG opinions because they provide uniformity throughout the state.
But Justice Voigt, who requested the opinion, was concerned enough about the legalities associated with representing, who was not a justice at the time, but who did become a justice,
yes.
Who is respected for his concerns. He identified very quickly that there was inherent problems associated with county attorneys representing special districts, and so sought the opinion. Is that fair?
I would believe so, and just the scope of his representation of all the elected officials and all of the boards, yes.
Representative Crago?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Plaintiff, defendant, ready? Go.
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay.
So actually, I believe the 1980 opinion dealt with fair boards, airport boards, and museum boards, which are not special districts. And the question was whether they are considered part of the county for purposes of representation. Mr. Barron can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the delineation. It was not in regards to special districts themselves. It had to do with a question regarding the boards that are what I call ancillary arms of the county.
And the question remains. All right. Thank you, Representative Crago. Any questions for Mr. Barron? So, Mr. Barron, is it still the opinion of the County Attorneys Association that you're opposed to the bill?
Madam Chairman, nothing's changed. Not that we're a fast-acting organization, but I think I would be safe to say the supermajority that we require to take a position would remain the same.
Deliberative. That's what we'll call it. Mr. Barron, thank you so much. We appreciate hearing from you. Is there any additional public comment on this bill? Yes, Mr. Novotny, Commissioner Novotny, please come forward. Welcome, Commissioner. If you'd introduce yourself to the committee.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. My name is Bill Novotny. I'm a Johnson County Commissioner. I'm also Vice President of the Wyoming County Commissioners Association, joined today in the room by commissioners from Campbell County, Laramie County, as well as our executive staff. The position of the Wyoming County Commissioners Association, which I believe you received in our bill sheet, is support of this bill. And to reach that position, you must have 70% of all of the commissioners in Wyoming take that position. I want to, I guess, try to address some of the concerns. And I think one of the good things that the way Representative Crego drafted this bill is in the fact that it is permissive. And what this bill is going to do is to allow us to continue the status quo. There is innumerable number of inherent conflicts between the county attorney and the elected officials. It's nice to see there are actually two commissioners that serve on this committee. And I want you to think back to your time on the Board of Equalization hearing, where the county attorney is representing the assessor. You as the commissioners are sitting as both the judge and the jury. And then after that's over, the county attorney is going to walk down to the county treasurer's office and explain what's going to happen in the tax settlement. If you look into the relationships between county commissioners and special districts, whether they are elected or appointed board members, there will always be inherent risk of conflict, which is why you have judicial ethics, which will allow whether it's the civil deputy or the county attorney themselves, make the legal determination if there is a conflict. And in Senator Kolb's instance, I believe it was issues with a hospital district and between his county. Most of the hospital districts, school districts retain their own counsels who have special law training in that area. If it gets into another area, then we are going to fall back on the local government liability pool. And that will be the individuals who are going to represent those special districts. What we're trying to accomplish with this bill is allow the simple day-to-day operations of things to continue. Reviewing of those contracts, dealing with personnel matters, bid packages for awards of projects. The financial impact on the counties that are engaged in this process is going to be thousands and thousands of additional taxpayer dollars wasted on outside counsel with simple tasks that can easily be performed by the county attorney's office. And so I would ask you to resist the concerns, advance this bill, and allow the status quo to continue, because that's what Representative Crego is bringing to you, is the continuation of the status quo.
Commissioner Novotny, is it fair to say that the county commissioners are not taking the advice of their attorneys?
Madam Chairwoman, I am not an attorney. And in this instance, this is a policy decision. I don't know the...
Do you trust the wisdom of your county attorneys?
I absolutely trust the wisdom of my county attorney, Mr. Tucker Ruby, and his two deputies that represent me every day.
And in fact, they're telling the commissioners this is a bad idea, right?
My county attorney is telling me that it is a good idea.
Because he wants his conduct ratified.
I'm not going to
You're good.
wade into the weeds on what the County Attorneys Association, how they get to their point. And we respect Mr. Barron and his associates. But again, I would reiterate, we'd like to continue the status quo.
All right, Commissioner Novotny, thank you. Senator Kolb.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Commissioner Novotny, good day to you, sir. The issue, let me clarify something. First off, we have a county memorial hospital in Sweetwater, not a hospital district, two absolutely different animals. And you're right, under that circumstance, that would hold true, but it's not under the county memorial hospital. I think the way I'm seeing this is it's a funding issue. See, we, as county commissioners, when I was one, we distributed monies to the assessor's office, if we're going to talk about the Board of Equalization. And that was directly under that financial connection. A special taxing district, of course, is a separate entity. So I think to make that connection, I'm a little confused on why that would be a rational connection. I see it as two different entities. And I know, I'll speak to my county attorney adamantly opposes this. And I think that obviously the majority of the county attorneys feel this way because they wouldn't come up with that opinion, just like the Board of County Commissioners Association has their opinion. I get it. But I am concerned, maybe in a larger county, it's a bigger issue. In a smaller county, it's not. But I think there's a conflict here, and I haven't heard anything yet to make me think it's not. So I'm still listening, and thank you for your testimony. Thank you, Chair.
Senator French, any comments? Following the advice of your counsel. Prudent.
My counsel says no comment.
Any additional questions from the committee for Commissioner Novotny?
Thank you, committee. Always fun to spar with you.
All right. Any additional public comment? There's a lot of county commissioner folks here. All right. Could be a good time. Public comment is closed. Representative Crago, if you want to come back up, give you an opportunity here. We've got some time. The third bill on our agenda will move over to Friday because we do have the ability to do that for those waiting and who might be in contact with Representative Provenza. Representative Crago, any final thoughts?
Madam Chairman, I would just echo what Commissioner Novotny said. Status quo. That's what we're trying to do. And in all seriousness, yes, are we trying to ratify what the status quo is? Yes. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. Once the opinion came out, I had to go tell my special districts I can't represent them anymore. I mean, that's what I did. And so I'm trying to fix that. And, you know, if at the end of the day I don't, they will hire a lawyer and go on. But, you know,
And that's okay too.
that's okay too. It might be me doing it for some, you know, I don't know, somehow, but it just allows us all to make that choice at the local level. That's the point of the bill. Let's give our local county attorneys the ability to make the decision on their own. I'm not requiring anybody by this bill to do anything they don't want to do. It gives it back to the local level to make that choice. And I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Representative. All right. Committee, back to you. Moved by Senator, or comments by Senator Cooper?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, thank you. I'd just like to say that, again, addressing the actual bill, the language is here. It allows for approval of the county commissioners, and it says it may at his discretion, the county attorney. So there's nothing that says they have to do this. It just gives them permission to. I think it's very well written. Thank you.
All right, the bill has been moved by Senator Cost. Is there a second? Second by Senator Cooper. Further discussion on the bill? Question being called. Roll call.
Senator Cooper,
Aye.
Senator French,
Aye.
Senator Kolb,
No.
Senator Cost,
Aye.
Chairman Nethercott.
No.
Madam Chairman, House Bill 193 engrossed passes with 3 ayes and 2 noes.
Thank you. Representative Crago, who do you want to carry your bill on the Senate side? Senator Cooper, it's all yours.
Thank you, madam.
Okay, and with that, the meeting is adjourned, and as indicated, we'll hear House Bill 212 on Friday morning.